Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you're joining me for this video. Thanks once again for clicking on the PenBoyRoy Fountain Pen Review channel. The subject of today's video is this bad boy right here, the Waldman Manager Fountain Pen. So I've done several reviews on Waldman fountain pens in the past, so if you want more detailed information on the Waldman brand history and whatnot, I don't like repeating myself, please check out those videos in my Fountain Pen Review channel playlist. I'll also include links in the description below. The subject of today's video, the Waldman Manager, is a pretty cool and distinct fountain pen in that it is made entirely of 92.5% silver, as stamped on the body of the pen. Now, an interesting fact about the Waldman stamping of 92.5, based on what I was told by my good buddy Bryce over at Luxury Brands of America, 92.5 is actually inaccurate when it comes to the amount of silver that's in the Waldman Manager. The actual amount is 93.5. But because of logistics and publishing issues or whatever they have to deal with in Germany and the manufacturer, they actually just felt like it was a headache to say that it's 93.5, so they actually just put 92.5 to save themselves a headache. Now, another thing I want to talk about the Waldman brand is, and this is another interesting thing that Bryce told me, Waldman offers with all their pens a 10-year warranty. 10 years is a really long time, right? But in reality, here's the truth. The only reason why Waldman offers a 10-year warranty on all their pens is because they're not allowed to say lifetime. And the reason why they're not allowed to say lifetime is because of another logistical reason. The government of Germany is asking people who are saying lifetime warranty, well, what are you referring to when you say lifetime? Are you talking about the lifetime of the person? Are you talking about the lifetime of the person who got it after the first dead person got it? Who knows? Are you talking about the lifetime of the pen? Original purchaser? All right, so let's take an example why this can be confusing. What happens if you gift your buddy a Waldman Manager, but then your buddy gets run over by a truck? Unfortunately for your buddy, maybe the lifetime doesn't apply to him when it comes to the warranty and all the legality issues. So just to simplify things, Waldman is now just saying you get a 10-year warranty on all of their fountain pens. However, they don't actually keep track of how long you've had the pen, where and when you bought the pen. If anything ever goes wrong with your Waldman pen, you can actually send it in, and it doesn't matter if you're 50 years old, if you bought it 50 years ago, 20 minutes ago, 10 years ago, they'll warranty your fountain pen. So that's some cool information about the brand that has been given to me by the distributor, my good buddy Casper, Bryce, over at Luxury Brands of America. That's all I have for the background information. Moving on to the neutral zone. Those elements about the pen that are either good or bad, or can be good or bad, depending on you. So the nib is, what I'm just discovering right now upon close inspection, is actually an 18 karat gold nib. It's two-tone and it's a Jowo nib. It has some scroll work on the shoulders. Underneath the breather hole, you have the year 1918 that the brand was started, and also underneath that you have the Waldman logo, which looks like a mutated psychotic Pac-Man. Underneath that, 750, which is the gold designation, and the nib size. This one's a fine. Underneath that, you have your cheapy plastic feed. The nib and feed are friction fit into an unscrewable nib unit that goes right into this metal tapered with a slight flare section. You have your ink window. Underneath the ink window is your threads. It screws into the plastic threads of the cap. The barrel is made entirely of 92.5 with an asterisk sterling silver. At the end of the barrel, you have your piston knob. The piston knob has a ratchet filling type system. They don't call it that, but that's all I can think of because it makes that ratcheting noise, similar to the Montegrappa. Nothing on the bottom of the finial, and then you have your cap. The top of the cap looks to me a lot like that Pac-Man I was talking about, psychotic Pac-Man, or it could be teeth. It's supposed to be like this, Waldman. The clip is part of the pen that's not made of sterling silver because sterling silver would be too soft. This is stainless steel, I believe. And then the cap is just the same design as the rest of the barrel with some space for engraving, but I'm not going to do that to this pen. Over here you have the 92.5 stamping. On the center band you have Waldman, and on the back, almost the back, you have Made in Germany. So it just wraps around this simple wedding band style center band. Let's put the pen down. We'll take a look at the boxing. Now the boxing, if you've seen one Waldman box, you've seen them all. It's pretty boring. You take off the top comes off. You have your inside clamshell box, and the clamshell box has some shiny stuff on the front. You open it up and you have all the stuff that would come with it. Now, this is not the actual box for this one, so there's cartridges in here. You wouldn't get cartridges with yours because this is a piston filler. That's all I have for the neutral zone. Moving on to the good. Those elements about the pen that are good. I definitely appreciate the way this fountain pen writes. The nib feels wonderful on paper. The paper that I'm using here is a little bit of a toothier paper. It's called the Nebula Note. This is also from luxury brands who are sponsors of the Pentertainment Podcast. Now, what I find is, being that this paper is a little bit more toothy and has a little bit more texture, you actually feel the rub of the nib a little bit more. I actually appreciate that. And what I appreciate about it is it's very smooth and well tuned. At the same time, even though the paper is a little bit more toothier and has a little bit more texture, what I'm finding is that the nib is so well tuned that if I switch over to another piece of paper that's even smoother, let's say Rhodia, it also has a very satisfying feel to it. Now, it's not like a stylus on glass. No, there's definitely a tactile feel where you can feel that you're writing, but it's just incredibly smooth and consistent. There is something that the brand does with the tuning of the nibs. They won't really disclose what it is that they do, but whatever it is that they are doing, they're doing a fantastic job, and I really do appreciate the way this writes. The balance and weight of the feel of the pen, to me, is fantastic. I find that it's better unposted, and it's long enough unposted that it's not uncomfortable. When you do post it, realize you're adding about a third of the weight to the pen, so it does feel back-weighted. It doesn't really distract me, but I can see how this would definitely distract other people while they're writing. The grip section is metal, as you can see, and I'm sure that might be a point of contention for some. This should probably really be in the neutral zone. When it comes to the aesthetic of the pen, this thing is just really shiny. It's really beautiful. It's made of sterling silver, and I can't help but love the design. The lines that go up and down the body of the pen, I think, make the pen look really elegant. I love that this pen is a piston filler. This pen can hold a ton of ink. This is what I use at home when I'm logging all my fish keeping habits. I really do love the weight and the feel of the pen in my hand. I like holding it. It feels nice. It feels like it's made of quality. And there is a significant amount of silver in the body of this pen. So I really do love everything about this pen, from the way it looks, to the way it writes, to the way it feels. But there are some caveats that come with that, of course. Nothing is perfect. That's all I have for the good. Moving on to the bad. Let's talk coin. So the pen that I have here with me today is the pen with the 14 karat gold nib. And because there's a 14 karat gold nib on the pen, there is an upcharge to it. So the MSRP of this pen is $675. That is not cheap. But with retailers here in the US, you can get it at a discounted street price of $540. Now let's say, for example, you're just not into gold, or you don't see the need to spend extra money on the gold. So the very same pen with a steel nib and not the 14 karat gold nib will run you $540 with its MSRP. But with retailers here online in the US, you can get it for $432. Now, again, that is not cheap, it's expensive. $432 for a stainless steel nib with a sterling silver body, and $540 for a 14 karat gold nib and a sterling silver body. I don't think that that's cheap, but I also don't think that that is terrible when it comes to fountain pens that are fully made of sterling silver, or rather as much sterling silver that goes into this fountain pen. That's all I have for the bad. Moving on to the ugly. Those elements about the pen that should not be, but are. I really do enjoy this, but like everything, nothing is perfect. And there are some imperfections that I do want to talk about with this fountain pen. So let me start with the most glaring one. And even though it's glaring, it's not a deal breaker, not for me, but it could be for you. And that's in the piston mechanism. This piston mechanism kind of reminds me of the Montegrappa. I didn't make a mistake. The Montegrappa pen is actually called Montegrappa. And what that has is a ratchet filling piston mechanism. So if you listen very carefully, as I'm rotating the piston, it makes this clicking noise. Now, there's not much resistance to that clicking noise. Now, this is me turning it in the direction of bringing the piston back towards the bottom of the pen, so I'm not really squirting ink into my cap right now. Now, if I went the other way, that's when the piston would be activated and move towards the nib, and that'd be pushing ink out towards the nib. The problem I have with this is, as little resistance there is in turning the knob clockwise, there's equally as little resistance going the other way. So I can definitely see holding this in my hand or putting it in my pocket or putting it somewhere where it's accidentally turning and pushing ink out and causing leaks. For that reason, this fountain pen actually stays on my desk on this wonderful pen holder our good friend of the podcast, Slickery Don't, sent me. And for that reason, I use this pen primarily for my fish keeping log. Now, I'm not saying I'm never going to take this pen out with me when I go out, and I'm not saying I'm never going to use it as an everyday writer. I'm sure I definitely am, because I really love the pen. But I just have to be more aware. If I'm putting it in my jeans pocket, how tight are my jeans? I have to make sure that I'm not moving in a way that's going to cause the piston mechanism to activate and cause me to have inky balls. It's not that it's not a good everyday pen. It's just that I don't want to have to worry about it linking, and there is the potential because of how little resistance there is when it comes to turning the piston knob. The last thing I want to complain about is a point of contention for me, but may not be for you. The fact that it's sterling silver means that it's going to tarnish over time, and eventually it's going to yellow a little bit, and after yellowing, it's going to turn dark green. Now, you can always buff that out and make it look brand spanking new with a sterling silver polishing cloth or a jeweler's cloth, but I'm lazy. And a lot of times I don't like to do that. Now, my podcast co-host Tom and I, we always have a discussion about that. If you had a pen that's made of a metal that oxidizes over time and tarnishes or patinas, are you the type of person that likes to buff it down and make it look brand spanking new and shiny? Or do you let it age and get that wasabi look? Is that what he calls it? Wabi-sabi? I can't remember what he calls it, but it's an aged look. Me, I like having a pen that looks brand spanking new and shiny. So it's a lot of work sometimes. It's almost a couple times a week I'm buffing this down with a polishing cloth. I don't think I want to do that all the time. Sometimes I let it go for several weeks and then I finally do it. But every time I go to pick up the pen, I say to myself, oh, look at that, it's tarnished. Now, like I said, that's a point of contention for me. Some people, it certainly isn't. That's all I have for the ugly. It's high noon. Decision-making time. Should you or should you not pull the trigger on the Waldman Manager Fountain Pen? Now, like I said, I really adore this fountain pen. I think this fountain pen is fantastic. I love the amount of silver in it. I love the weight. I love the feel. I love the way it writes. I like the piston mechanism, except for how little resistance there is. And when I say I like the piston mechanism, I do like piston mechanisms because it holds a lot of ink. So I like that. I like the way it writes. I like the feedback. It's just barely enough toothiness for you to say that there's feedback. But it's not glossy smooth like a stylus on an iPad, and I actually really like that. I do appreciate the fact that the upcharge from a stainless steel version to the 14 karat gold is only about $108. It's not too bad. Having said that, is this pen right for you? It depends on where you are in the fountain pen journey that you're on. This is certainly not your first gold nib pen. It's not even a pen that you would get unless you have a whole library of fountain pens. You have to go through, I think, your Lamy 2000s. You have to go through your Pilot Custom 74s. You have to go through your Sailors. You have to be someone who appreciates metal pens. And on top of that, you have to be someone who appreciates precious metal pens. And if you're in the market for a precious metal fountain pen, and you want one made out of sterling silver, I can't think of one better than the Waldman Manager. And I think that if that's what you're looking for, then that means you're not at the beginning stages of your fountain pen journey. You're not even in the middle, but you're closer towards the advanced stages where you kind of gotten tired of everything else out there. And now you want a pen that's a statement piece, that's almost like a piece of jewelry that can go inside a tux or go to a meeting. This will definitely draw the attention of a meeting. You go into a room and you'll own that room with this pen. You'll pull it out, you'll grab people's attention. People might like you more. That's not true. They may not. So don't buy this pen thinking that people are going to like you more because I said so. But this is a pen that will grab people's attention. All ugly aside, I really do think that this is worth it if that's where you are in your fountain pen journey. I don't recommend this to a person who's asking me, what first gold nib fountain pen should I get? But I certainly do recommend this to somebody who says, listen, I'm looking for something fancy, but I don't want to spend $1,000. I'm looking for a precious metal fountain pen. Something that'll be a forever pen. This is something that you can certainly pass down to your children, and your children can pass down to your children's children, and so forth. This pen could certainly be sunken treasure one day. I think that's cool. That was my review of the Waldman Manager Fountain Pen. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. Be well, be safe.